Okay, this meeting is being recorded. It is the February 17th. It's a joint chapter meeting of the Project Management Institute Calumet chapter, along with Project Management Institute Northeast Indiana chapter. We welcome you to an hour of fun and inspiration. I think we got a great program tonight, which Karen Teeter will describe here momentarily. But I think we had a good virtual networking session. We learned a little bit about some folks that really inspire us. And not only just because it's Black History Month, but because of where we are as a nation and going forward, and not to forget where we've been in order to figure out where we're going. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to start the meeting. I'm seeing that we currently have over 25 people on the call, which is a great start. I imagine a couple more will drop in as we go. This is potentially up to 2 PDUs that we can get under this PDU claim code. That's right there. It's under C256L30 EBT. And we'll get a 1 PDU program for the actual program, and the networking and or extended Q&A could get you the other hour if they're together. Use your self-judgment and when you're reporting on the chapter, continuing chapter reporting system for CCRS system. All right, I want to recognize the leader of Northeast Indiana, Mr. Mike Ruiz, with any chapter announcements. So Mike, chapter business for Northeast Indiana.
Thanks, Dan. Good evening, everybody. I'm pleased to announce that we have a brand new website refresh. So please go out, check it out if you're on the call tonight. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to work out well for us and allow us to be a lot more agile and do updates very quickly and efficiently. And it also is it's scalable, so that means it'll be as Star Chapters websites all are throughout the PMI template. It's something that will render very well through mobile browsers as much as it will through laptops, provided they go faster than Dan's, right? And I'm going to be reaching out to our board members, and I got the wonderful honor of being the president during probably one of the oddest years in the history of our chapter, right? And it's been difficult because one of the things that we do, one of the reasons for our being, was having these chapter dinner meetings and having them physical, and we can't do that. So I'm going to reach out to the folks that have been our core volunteers, try to bring some folks together, get some planning together for 2021. I do believe, just with the tenor of the way things are going in the world, that we will get back to having some physical meetings later this year. But for right now, I think what Dan has thrown together here and what we're going to be doing tonight, I think this will be a pretty strong indicator of how we do things for at least the remainder of the winter and spring going into the first part of the summer. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just hope we don't have any Zoom fatigue or any virtual meeting fatigue, but this is, we've got what we've got, and this is it. But I will send a message out to all the folks that are in NEIC, asking them to look at our new website, return any comments, and I'm thrilled about that. I think that's a big win. That's something we had talked about doing for a while. And I'm also, like I said, I'm looking forward to getting back together virtually with the board and doing some brainstorming, doing some thoughts about how we're going to approach 2021, and how we approach it in the beginning isn't hopefully how we're going to finish it up. But I think it's past time for us to be a little more sustainable there. So I'll pause for a second. I know I've got a few people out there. Clifford, I saw you there. I saw Kevin, and I think I saw Bruce out there. Any comments? Any thoughts?
I like the site.
Yeah, I do too. I love that Star Chapter site.
And okay, we'll have to take that one offline, Bruce.
Come on, man.
That's what you got Bruce. For IT advisor advising you, Mike.
Yeah, I know. You know what? Nothing like Bruce helps me help myself, right? So there you go.
All I meant is I have no thoughts for myself.
But he has the coolest LED lights in the background. It just take my word for it. Very cool toys.
Yes.
So,
yes.
all
Indeed.
right.
Mike, anything
Dan,
else about
that's all I
Northeast
have.
Indiana?
That's
Hey,
all
Mike,
I
I
have tonight.
can't wait till we can get together in person. Wait, why am I a cat?
That is awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. That's cool. I always
Dan,
like
that's it. That's it for me.
I always like the Starship myself, but okay. All right. On the PMI Calumet chapter side, looking forward later this month, and it'll be posted tomorrow. We're going to offer up a new member and chapter orientation. It's open in the entire chapter. It's more or less kind of going over is who and what is PMI Calumet chapter. What offerings do we provide? How do we record PDUs? It's a chance to meet a couple board members. It's a chance to connect, and we're going to do this in a breakfast meeting and try that. It'll be 8:30 a.m. on Thursday, February 25th. You know, probably up to one PDU as we got to get back to our day jobs and everything else. Also coming up for both chapters, both PMI Calumet chapter in Northeast Indiana, along with Michiana, Central Indiana, and Kentuckiana down there in Southwest Indiana, are having a meeting on March 17th called All Indiana. And it's a PMI Joint Chapters meeting featuring keynote speaker Tom Dakich talking about opportunity zones and economic development incentives, and featuring a real success story of Digital Crossroad. For users that don't know, in the upper left-hand corner of Indiana, right there at the Illinois-Indiana line on the lakefront, is Digital Crossroad, a nice little server farm, and Tom will be talking all about that. On the second half of the meeting, the next hour of this 2 PDU program, is going to be Jesse Fuel and Marvin Nelson talking about PMBOK version 7 changes and updates. So you want to hold that date for March 17th. I believe it's going to start at 5:30 p.m. Central Time, 6:30 Eastern. And again, it'll be a 2-hour opportunity. A lot of great stuff over there. Also looking forward in April, we are looking at the Klein Avenue Bridge project, which Karen and I talked to Laura Weber over at United Bridge Partners yesterday. And we are looking to have a joint meeting with PMI Chicagoland. And this is going to be a early morning breakfast meeting as well, that we're going to try, scheduled for April 23rd. And there'll be more information coming soon, and a chance to learn 1.25 to up to 1.5 PDUs for that. That said, that ends the chapter business portion. And I'm going to turn it over to Karen Teeter, our Vice President of Professional Development, to present our featured speaker, Dr. Nitha Fiona Nagubadi.
All right. Thanks, Mike and Dan, for the information for the members here. And I hope that you guys are getting a sense of the energy that we're all bringing, attempting to bring to the table for ourselves, our chapter, our Indiana PMI community, and for each one of the members. We want to make sure that there's a horizon out there so that people know what's coming up, so that you can plan accordingly. And we mentioned PDUs, but it's certainly not just about PDUs. It's about gaining some additional knowledge as it relates to project management. And so with that, I am so proud to be able to introduce Dr. Nitha Nagubadi. And as I mentioned to those who were on the networking call, I just met Dr. Nagubadi, and I feel like I've known her for years. And I think that you're going to be very pleased with the conversation and collaboration that we're going to have within the next hour. The one thing I want to call out when looking through her her bio and material is that we're really in for a trifecta of knowledge. She's bringing to us project management, business psychology, as well as diversity and innovation. And when I think about this type of trifecta, I picture those mobiles. Remember those mobiles back then? And if one of those mobiles are out of sync, then what happens? You know, you lose balance. And so the information that she is going to give us is going to help us when all this chaos is coming from different directions, and beyond the pandemic, right? It was coming to us beforehand. We're project managers. We live in chaos, and we make adjustments. But when that comes and that, you know, mobile gets out of sync, that creates, you know, more havoc than we need. And therefore, with no further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Nagubadi to walk us through her knowledge in this short period of time. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you again. And I'm really honored to be here. And I'm a new member of this chapter. And I want to again thank Dan and Karen for the warm welcome as a new member to this chapter too. And also really you, I think the whole journey from when I first signed up to be a member until now has been, I think, modeling how every PMI chapter should be. So I really wanted to thank you again for that. So thank you. And good evening, everybody. I've been trying a couple of other tools here today, so hopefully it will work with the virtual environment. So thank you. I'm going to post one link in the chat that will be focused on one of the polling tools that I am going to say. So please make sure that you're able to access this. Okay, good. Share my screen. And as Karen mentioned, I do have a lot of information here, and I'm coming about the subject, which I'm sure that I will learn from each of you also. These are dynamic topics, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I know on this call, there are many experts who know more than I do on this topic too. I'm just touching upon the various aspects from a business psychology perspective, but also from project management. I work in project management mostly with technology teams. So I have a technology background as well too. So I'm integrating these topics. And this is just one lens that I've been looking at this through, and I'm looking forward to some interactive portion here with the polls. Hopefully everything will work smoothly and we'll be able to all see the results and things too. So today I'll cover, you know, an overview of the topic. So pardon me, some will be a little bit academic, but I did try to lighten some of that so that it doesn't feel like 3 presentations in one. But you can also, you know, give me any feedback or suggestions afterwards too. And then I'll provide some context then, which I would love to hear from you on why these topics are relevant. They've always been relevant, and I also appreciate the exercise that Karen has also taken us through prior to this in the networking session too. That journey itself is related to this topic. And then covering about innovation and diversity. We don't often see those terms together, but behind the scenes, these are operating at a cognitive level for us individually and then in teams. So I'll share a little bit about that. And then, of course, you've heard of the terms transformational leadership, so we'll tie it into that, and then this concept of global mindset. And I would like to start, I really enjoy starting with the quote. And I don't know if Dan and Karen, if during this, if people like to read some of these things also, and if you were going to use the wheel for some of that, but this might be a good one to share if you have the wheel ready, or we'll do it another later on. I'm sorry to ask you that during this.
That's okay. We probably would not do the wheel at this point in time, okay. But if you would like somebody to read it, I'm sure we could get someone.
No, that's okay. I could do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, just setting the tone for this. We are in the midst of a lot of change. change is something that we can definitely rely on throughout our lives, personally and professionally, but not as much probably as we've all experienced in this last year through the pandemic and the many changes. But within the change is actually where I think, you know, barring any traumatic situation that occurs, of course, there's a lot of gems during this change process. So this is actually a picture of a professor of psychology at University of Chicago that I had. His name is Csikszentmihalyi. This is his name here. And he's the author of and coined the term flow. If you've ever heard the term, let's go with the flow, you're in the flow, in the zone of your work. That's kind of what this psychology term refers to. And here's the quote that really, I think, maybe coins what we're dealing with now. Contrary to what we usually believe, moments like these, the best moments in our lives, are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times, although such experiences can also be enjoyable if we have worked hard to attain them. The best moments usually occur when a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. So this is something good, I think, to keep in mind in the midst of all the changes as project managers, as leaders, as individuals. There are rewards that we're picking up along the way. So let's see if you can access that that chat, that link. Are you able to access the link? I'm gonna drop in the first question and then just share. Okay.
Just so you know, it's for me, it's saying presentation is underway. As soon as the activity is active, you'll see it on the screen. Stay put.
Okay, good. Now,
Okay.
do you see a question pop in now?
Perfect. Yep, you're on.
Okay, great. So, and this is just a check-in. You know, we are all dealing with so much. So just checking in with the whole person. So that's good. Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer. Just checking in and also seeing if this works. All right. Thank you, everybody. And next question. In one word, how do you see yourself? How do you describe yourself right now? This is just one. During a test earlier, Hungry described. And by the way, these words are, again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just how you're feeling. How do you describe yourself? And you can put more than one answer too. Thank you for the engagement. This is good. And since it's the end of the day, we can see, and this is actually a good way to get some feedback anonymously from people of what's the temperature in the room. These are things that probably you can pick up by the silence or emotional cues, but these are also other tools. Great, thank you. Excellent. And then the other one, which is related to the slide that you will see next, is, also this is also related to where are you from? Click as many locations on the map that apply to you. So you can just put a pin, I think, when you click on there. And we'll just observe that together. And is it allowing you to place some pins? Okay. Great. So has everybody had a chance? And you can pick as many as apply to you. You can select more and drop more. All right. Good. All right, I see the pins have settled down. So we can take a look. We can see as far as, diversity of responses, of how we're feeling, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's just this is what's in our collective community. This is our community right now. So we have a high concentration, not surprisingly, in the U.S. We have representation I think we have representation in all continents, which is interesting. So as far as diversity and inclusion, even though we are in representing two Indiana chapters, Northeast and Northwest Indiana, look at how much of the world is represented here. That was interesting. Thank you for doing this, because oftentimes our perception externally is a little bit it's not what is expected, and it's more about, and why I asked where are you from and pick as many as you relate to, is because the sense of place where somebody's from is more of a psychological connection. It's not necessarily, and it's what the person looks like. And if we can all, I think the more we keep that in mind too, it helps us with our practices too, with respect to diversity. By the way, any thoughts? This is also, feel free if anybody wants to, make a comment in between too, feel free, please. Any thoughts or questions? Okay. And then the next question is related to, so go back to here. So during 2020, of course, we had many things that happened within the world, within our world, within the organization. And as project managers, we have to be aware of it and also adapt and many ways lead it too. So I'm curious, what are the themes that were impacting you? If you can also drop that in the chat. So I have placed some things here which represented what, were most impactful for me. And then in my work is, of course, COVID, and then also the economy, so many fluctuations. I work with e-commerce teams, and there was definitely a lot of busier pace. So the rate of work and the stress on the teams was higher. And then, of course, the many conversations around race and equity and diversity that were largely stemming from events from the summer with the murder of George Floyd, and then a lot of conversations around this. So let me go back to this. I see several responses, and thank you for sharing. And then I think you have an option to, also upvote if you also agree with something that's already been said. So working from home, COVID, social justice, extroverts are now experiencing the stress introverts have been feeling for years. Yes, politics, so score, creativity, interesting. Being indoors for so long, yes. And now, especially those of us in Indiana, we have a mountain of snow outside our doors, keeping us indoors for other reasons too. Limited time to home, global teams. I still see some students in college, virtual classes are stressful, leadership changes, fear, global teams not seeing extended family. Frustration at the state of our world, social justice. Yeah, and I see upvoting happening, and then global teams. And so these are things that, give me the insights, and thank you for your engagement in this. Give me the insights on, so I know what was impacting me, but I would like to know more about the community and what collectively is impacting everybody. And this is where I also teach a project management class too, and I always mention that project management is an art and a science too. So they are the phases of the project management life cycle, but there's also the people involved and how they're feeling. And all of this is very important qualitative data to take insights into. And this is probably what many of you are already doing, but through conversations too. So let me go back to this. Now here's where there's a lot of definitions, and I tried to stream it down, but I really wanted to review these terms. And I'd like to share also that today I had the pleasure of having a conversation with my college professor from college, University of Chicago in the 90s, okay, early 90s too. So it's nearly 30 years ago, and I connected with my cultural psychology professor, and it was just coincidental that it was today. And we talked about cultural psychology, and this is a relatively, newer concept than it is now. And we talked about these similar terms came to the surface, and I mentioned I will be sharing these. So culture is, one of the anthropologists, Gert Hofstede, defines culture as a collective programming of the mind, distinguishing the members of one group or category of people from others. So this could, that's the scientific, one of the scientific definitions of culture. So basically, and we think of culture as maybe ethnicity, different cultures, and even there's a corporate culture too. So that's also where this might come into play. And there's also, different regional cultures. Northwest Indiana, for example, is different than downtown Chicago. So different cultures come to mind when you are thinking of that group. Ethnocentrism. Now, this is a very important term of reflection. A point of reflection is an individual's own culture is the central reality. So if you remember seeing the map, so if every individual is looking at their own reality of where they're from or how they're feeling, that's this ethnocentrism, is that individual's own central reality. So that's kind of the default state. My professor today also mentioned about the term presentism. So being in this time and space, this is this perspective. Ethno-relativism is an individual's culture is experienced relative to others. So I'm looking at it from the other person's perspective. So if, for example, if I'm working with this team, this group, then I'm looking at the map and thinking, okay, I need to be mindful of, when I'm speaking to this group, they are from all over. So my perspective is not their perspective. So being mindful of that will then root me in a different set of questions. Bicultural, and this is why I also asked you to put down as many that you relate to as where you're from, because there are many individuals that are from more than one culture, community, race, ethnicity too. So just understanding that the default is not just one, it's from anywhere. So all of these are also a shift in understanding and perspective. Now, this is a term that we all know about already, the diversity. So mainly it's about the differences across various groups, and you can add to this list, but race, ethnicity, gender, disability, class, sexual orientation, religion, region, nation, language, and on and on. So when we have different anything, this is what diversity is. And these are the two more recent terms that we've been hearing more about is equity and equality. So we'll read that too. Equity is the quality of being fair and impartial. Recognize that each person has different circumstances and allocates the exact resource and opportunities needed to reach the equal outcome. So one of the books that I recommended is How to Be Anti-Racist, because that's something that is something that we'll be seeing more about as far as each of our roles in the resetting a balance in society, and it will help. It also plays a benefit to not only setting norms of resetting balance in how people should be treated equitably in organizations, but also it has benefits to our own project outcomes too. And so equality is when each individual is given the same resources and opportunities. And inclusion is, so what we normally hear in project management, and we'll bring it back to project management. And thank you for allowing me to share this core terms before we go out of this. But inclusion, diversity and inclusion is what we hear about at the a lot, but it's more than just having different people there and including them on the team. It's about how we're engaging everybody throughout our project management process. And we will see the outcomes in terms of engagement, and also morale, and also output, and also risk management. So if there are some self benefits to doing this, but also it comes naturally as a part of this. Belongingness is the human emotional need to be accepted by the member of the group. So this is not something that can be measured by stats by another person externally. It's how the individual feels, and that's what really drives the results. I mean, it happens to each of us, right? The more we feel welcome, and I mentioned this at the beginning, with our leadership of this chapter, the way that they welcome new members, we already feel like we belong when we're new, and that impacts how we engage with the organization too. So this, I will take it back to one more question to you all. Any questions so far? So I would like to know, from project management perspective, each of us has an option to, each of us, and I'm posing this question, that each of us has a role in thinking about this in our workflow, or we think that, well, that's the diversity, equity, and inclusion HR department. That has nothing to do with me. So I'm raising this question to really just see where does this fall in your workflow, or where do you think how do you think you manage diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging into your project plans? And that question itself is, I know, unusual, but I'd love to see some of your responses. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just maybe there are some limitations in your organization. Maybe it never occurred to you, or anything like that too. So again, these are anonymous, so feel free to post what you feel. And it's always at that same link. And so, I'm sorry, I should have explained the answer. So the A would be the spectrum. So the expert, if you're a DEI expert with project management expertise, to working with fixed project plans, not leaving this in. So it's a, a spectrum here. So we have a pretty widespread, but also kind of a balance here with this. Good. Give a couple more. And I'd like to add, and why I'm really sharing this is I have wanted to share about project management and really this this part of inclusion and engagement in getting the value out of each of the team members. It has so many rewards, and actually I would say that probably is the, if I am successful on any project, it's because of approaching it and having an extra outward facing view on really trying my best. I don't understand everything either, but trying my best to really understand the different dynamics that may come into play by cultural background, by individual personality, understanding what different communication styles mean, whether I mean virtual or not. So I would consider myself probably in the B area. I strive to be, towards there, but I started in E. So it's also a journey too. And let's go to, and I also, okay. Let's go back to here. So I also share some stats too about the 2020 census. I was curious because actually until last year I was just sharing the prior data, which showed the demographics, and then it's showing the trends. And I'm sure we have more experts on this that I could learn from in learning about the demographics, but on the whole, the trends showed that we're having, a younger population that is increasing in diversity as far as racial diversity too, and aging population too. And so these are just some trends. They're just the facts. And so seeing the Gen X, that is my generation, just seeing this is the colors are a little bit hard to see. So white is the bottom one here, but definitely increasing in diversity too. So it makes sense to become more comfortable and also understand how to weave this in. Now here's another content that I wanted to share regarding the global mindset. And then I have done research in the area of foreign culture exposure and impact on creativity. So these are just some of the aspects of what are some factors of what I call a global mindset. So a global mindset is intended to mean both the diversity aspect, but also taking a 360 view of whatever you're looking at. And how does this come into play? So as a project manager, we have tremendous impact on the culture that we have that's the culture that the work teams experience, because many times now we're moving to the project economy. So we have more influence over how the workforce is spending their time and dividing their time. So how open we are with the questions we ask during the planning phase, during the status meetings. How are we engaging? So our openness, so we model this and we tend to set the tone with that. Of course, the senior leadership of any organization also sets a tone. We also set the tone with each project that we are leading. These are factors that relate to the global mindset. Flexibility, being able to see things from a different perspective or being open to hearing different perspectives. Social adaptability. So this is that being able to shift from ethnocentrism to ethno-relativism, not only staying with my own perspective and recognizing our own values and bias. So each of us has a bias, implicit bias. Everybody has it. It's not that it's a bad word. It's just that recognizing our own lens that we see things through, and that could be our greatest strength, but also could be our blind spot in some occasions too. So that's why even such times as now in Black History Month, this sometimes they're doing pass the mic in the social media, because you'll see just by handing over to somebody else, you will see different types of social media posts, for example, and that will give a different type of exposure to the audience too. Emotional awareness, so being self-aware, and curiosity. So each of these are skills, and these are what we refer to as soft skills, that there are ways to improve these through your own experiences. Any questions, anybody? Okay, so even as we want to strengthen our physical bodies with proper nutrition and exercise, each of these you will find, if you Google search, you could find so many different exercises in these areas. There are many creativity exercises that you can do to even increase your openness and flexibility, just like we could do strength training exercises too. And these will only serve you as a project manager, because you'll be able to engage, and even the type of questions that we ask will change the way that we receive feedback. Now, here's a little, this is a lot of information, but I've also still distilled it down. So this is too much information, I apologize. But this is about, we saw the map. So we saw the map, and the map is here again. We see the map, and if we have individuals, and again, there's still personality and individual differences too to take into consideration. And this is what we get by conversation, and even learning and reading, what does silence mean? Silence is also communication. When somebody's not speaking on the call, that could mean they're shy, or they've checked out of the meeting, and those are things that, as a project manager, that I do try my best to follow up one by one, and also to build that rapport so that I hear about, any concerns or risks along the way too. I'll take it back to then, this is the anthropologist that we saw the definition of culture, and there are different ways of looking at culture. So when I name these cities to you, please take a moment and think of, the images that come in your mind. London, Egypt, or places, sorry, Egypt, Cairo, Egypt, Moscow, Chicago, Miami, Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, Mumbai, Hong Kong. So we might be getting, observe your mind, observe your body. This is your own internal conversation. You may have images coming to your mind. If you have a good feeling towards that place, you may have had some sensation internally too. Memories may come up. And also, your experience of that culture is also based on your own personal and professional exposure to these, but also your understanding and experience of it too. And also the cultures themselves have different factors that when cultures are compared, then you can see how different they are too. There's a tool that you can compare cultures to. The same anthropologist named Hofstede has done this. So if anybody wants to name a country to compare United States with, so this is United States in terms of these rankings, power distance. I mean, we're not comparing cultures. So individualism is a high value for United States with the current demographic. This may change over time also as countries change. Long-term orientation is relatively lower. Uncertainty avoidance is kind of midway. So, and power distance. So power distance is like that level of distance between hierarchy and how that plays a role in organizations too. And all of these have impact, especially when, as a project manager, understanding how people perceive this. Anybody want to mention a country to just put here? I think we can do 3 comparisons now.
India.
India. Okay, let's see. So United States is the purple one now, and India. So we do see some, I guess we see some differences here in power distance. So in India, the power distance is higher. In general, again, these are generalizations, but as you were doing that reflection, you probably did feel some differences in understanding of the culture, and that comes from these values, these core differences and attributes of a culture that then we start to see externally in the way people communicate, what is important, what do they celebrate, and things like that, family structure, all of those things. So individualism is lower for India. So it's more of a group-oriented culture too. And big difference here. So being aware of that is important. So that's why sometimes if somebody asks a question in a project team, and again, let's say I'll with everything, individual personality and other factors come into play. Just looking at this generalization, if somebody were to pose a question in a group and, maybe the person from the United States may be more outspoken because it's more of individualistic. Maybe somebody else will wait until, somebody responds if they're from this culture, this type of culture. And then the respect for the differences too. So even if we have to engage in a conversation and brainstorming, it may take more from a project manager to elicit the responses from somebody that is, having a higher power distance, more of a deference to authority. So it's kind of interesting. Any other countries to put in? Anybody else?
Mexico.
Cool. Thank you. Interesting. So the colors change as we add more. So now US is the green one, and then Mexico is here. So it's in between the two here in individualism. Uncertainty avoidance. So looks like it ranked higher in terms of uncertainty avoidance. So if you have a familiarity, does it sound good, correct or not from your experience? So these are done by surveying more scientific research on these by lots of surveys. So so if somebody's uncertainty avoidant, so they're risk averse. So maybe somebody's more less willing to take risks. So they may not be they may take encouragement to focus on trying out new things. So they may need more support when in a change situation, and projects are always involving change and the level of change. So that's why this is also a handy tool, just to know that. And you can also use other tools to see what are the differences between team. And then, yeah, this is over the years, this has still been a good, and they keep refining this too.
Is this a free account?
Yeah, this is freely available. Yes, it's free for everybody. Hofstede, and over the years they had the 2 before, and it was a drop down, and they keep refining it with technology. And actually, they had an interesting question, a poll. This must have been in 2008 or something like that, where they said, "Do you think in the future there will be one monoculture in the world?" That was one of the questions. So they collect data also on what people think. And that question itself tells me that, we're changing, we're migrating so much that we are working together so much that we'll pick up each other's culture. Could it be that we'll all become one culture? So even that's an interesting thing. And project managers are in the heart of all of it, because we are working with people. And we are working with getting things done. And so as things evolve, as work gets done, we are managing the person's experience. And also how a person, we go back to belonging. I feel, I do feel responsible for how a person feels they belong in my team. I try my best, and I am trying to gauge it not by a certification from that person, but how much they're engaged, or how much to the extent that I ask questions that they're willing to answer, whether it's one-to-one or within there. So, and again, I mean, these are my perspectives, and I know I can learn from each of you, as well too. And how am I doing on time?
You're okay.
Okay, good. Okay. So then I have a question about, and I hope it works, but about this transformational leadership. So we hear about transactional and transformational. So when people used to think of project managers were taskmasters, right? We have this list of tasks, the things they need to get done, and then we just go check them off, right? That's how it was perceived, or, that's a rudimentary way of looking at it. What we would like to aspire to, and I think many of you do that, and we all are trying that, is to be more of a transformational leader, where we are providing the support to our team, to ourselves, to our individuals, so that we have the most positive outcome. And that is support. And first of all, we need to support ourselves. So we need to give ourselves the tools to fine-tune those skills for ourselves, take ourselves through those activities, creative activities, and give ourselves the ones that support us so we can support others. So our own leadership style. So these are the key organizational factors for innovation. So going back to when researching about innovation and creativity, creativity is something that is, we could feel more creative at certain times when we are more comfortable, but also there are certain activities we can do to spark our creativity, like certain games, watching a movie from a different culture. Just different things can improve our creativity. And there are a lot of activities. I'm sure I could learn many from you as well too. Those are things we can do for creativity, but innovation is something that has to do with, then we take that creativity and then how do we deliver output from that? And that has to do with the processes and the organization. So the organizational culture and the organizational commitment to the unjustified variation. So how many of you have this day in your company when you are allowed to try anything, or any teams are allowed to, to contribute? Those are called, in more innovative cultures that are focusing on really supporting mistakes. And I hear this, like, one of the companies that comes to mind is Netflix. I hear that they have a culture of really supporting trying out and experimenting, because then they may come up with newer ideas and newer ways of doing things. And if something fails, they want to know why did it fail? What did you try and why did it fail? So it's almost like inspiring many different Einsteins within the organization. Knowing how something failed is also very valuable. So an organizational commitment to that, and even as a project manager, the questions we ask could also drive that, so we can be more curious and gather all the information, not giving an answer of how things should be done. That also has an impact too. And then these are other factors. So having empathy, being able to change and adapt, and then reinforcing and celebrating the success, and then supporting ways that individuals need support. So one other example, as I mentioned, the project management class, there was one question about if people are coming, if one team, they tend to come in late and then they leave late, and then one other team is complaining, that team is coming in at 9:30, we are coming in at 9, we leave at 5 p.m. Why are they not coming in at 9 as well? So rather than shall we make everybody have the same schedule? Is that going to be good? And this has to do with, of course, the different companies and their needs and stuff too, but just seeing like what works for the team. We're ultimately looking for productivity and deliverables, but also engagement is a part of that too. So just being mindful of that too. So here are just some a couple of quotes. So Toyota's manufacturing plant is successful partially because it implements 99% of employees' ideas. So first of all, they need to gather those ideas. They need to get those ideas. So how do we get ideas is actually when people feel like they belong, they're engaged, and it's not very expensive to do this. It's more about how we communicate, and we feel that when we are valued, when we are heard, we're more likely to contribute to. The value of an idea lies in the using of it. And then if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late. So that's LinkedIn co-founder. A lot of the startups also are extremely embarrassed of their first MVP, their minimum viable product. It's something that is an experiment. So trying things out. So that encouraging, this continual process of learning, then build upon that, measure. So we are probably, if you're also working with e-commerce teams like I a lot of data. So there's a lot of opportunities to measure, and then we learn from it. So having a culture, whether it's throughout the culture, so to the extent that we could, and then it blends in with our own life cycle. And if we are an agile environments too, then we have more opportunity to do that repeatedly too. So lessons learned and the retrospectives engagement. Now, these are the two, just a quick little formula, but this is creativity from the diversity. So as I mentioned, both factors are important for delivering the output. So creativity is from diversity. This is one way. When we are exposed to different ideas, different cultures, different anything, we have access to more ways of doing things. That's within ourselves as an individual. Then we have to have a culture. We have to have leadership that supports that. That's the innovation. And then we will see the output. So both of them are key ingredients in this. We are part of this too. As project managers, we are this part. And I have been in organizations where maybe the whole organization wasn't very much supportive of innovation, but to the extent that I'm able to do that, I try to do that in the projects. And then we may have the happiest, most productive team. Within a not so good culture if we do that, we within whatever sphere. And we could also have the reverse, right? If the whole culture of the company is supporting innovation, and here we're just closing off to ideas, we also could change that too. So that's where we come in play. And also, probably if we are in a positive information seeking open culture, we're creating that, then probably we'll see a person more likely to bloom in our team too. Development improves too. So these are some examples when I have done the research on companies that have included more of a global mindset within their approach too. So I mentioned Netflix, and there is a, if you go to their Netflix, if you just Google Netflix and inclusion, you will see a really interesting video that they had about inclusion and their approach. It's not just about having different people, but their content. If any of you are Netflix subscribers, you'll see how much it's really, they're really breaking new ground. They're all over the world, but they're actually understanding that, well, we will have different products coming out of into the market if we have different people. And not only if we have different people, if we're actually including everybody's ideas as options into the pipeline. So whether we are using them or not, but at least let's give an opportunity for everything to come out there and let the market decide. So that's what Netflix has done too. And McDonald's has also done this with customizing in certain markets too. So even just being mindful of that too, and then doing different ways of doing things. And this, I think this, there's an example of the Lay's potato chips, and some of these come from not people that are in those roles themselves too, but in the different teams. Sometimes they might tap into the affinity groups, employee resource groups too, that where we can understand about certain market niche rather than just using it for a group of people that are getting together from a different culture, but actually really tapping into different insights that are there right in the company too. So I'm curious, again, we'll go back to here. I would love to see from you, what are some of the companies that you might identify as companies that you would see that incorporate diversity, or you've heard of that incorporate diversity in their culture, so internal culture or externally the brand, some things that you might perceive.
Procter and Gamble.
Oh, okay. P&G, that's a good one. Does that question show up for you again? Anybody? Oh, good. Okay, good. Amazon. Yeah.
Also, as they're doing that, I just want to call out that in the chat window from Crystal, she indicated as you were covering that last bit that her company has something similar, and it's coined Spark Tank. And the department has an inbox to send ideas to help improve.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you. And Spark Tank.
And then I also wanted to just give, I mean, the conversation is so great, and I knew it would be, but I just wanted to let you know that we were a couple minutes shy of top of the hour.
Okay, you're nearing completion. Thank you. Yeah.
And we would like to allow time for Q&A. Then we'll do, our raffle, and then,
good, yeah.
If you're able to stay on, then if there's some follow-up questions, we could do Q&A after that.
Thank you. Yes, I'll definitely. Yeah, thank you for that, Karen. Wow, this is a great list. IBM, Disney, Salesforce. Yeah, I think you could, if you wanted, put more than one too, if it allowed you. I hope I set up correctly. So Google. I guess if a few people are putting that, it comes up larger in this word cloud. Interesting. I'll have to look up these companies. So Sonos. What's Alight, Lincoln, Google? Yeah, so Google, I mean, I've heard about that too. I don't know personally inside there too, but definitely I've heard a lot about that, attracting talent. And this has implications on being able to attract talent, so many different impacts, and also even understanding the market too. So even algorithms, when developers understand, are also from different backgrounds too, even the way they're developing the algorithms to support, you know, websites, e-commerce, and everything too, and even face recognition. Just understanding that. Great, thank you for that. So we have awesome, good examples here, different ones that we can all look into. Some McDonald's, Zappos, Walmart. Thank you. And we can, I will share this with you, Karen and Dan, afterwards, in case anybody's interested to see those afterwards too.
Thank you.
And then I think this one is the last slide, is just this final one about what can we, just bringing it back to what can we do? So I mentioned before that the benefits for us are manyfold. Okay, so we feel better. I have a feeling that we feel better too when we do these practices too, because it's just more of a connected environment too, because we'll receive, we'll have a different energy, I feel too. We'll also receive more information from our team too. We'll also improve risk management. This is a huge one. The more we have better communication, sense of belonging from everybody in the team, ideally if that's possible, right? Then we're able to identify risks, because people will really tell us what's going on, how are they feeling, what are they concerned about, and we can better plan for it. And the earlier the better. And then engagement. So what are some, and so these are just some closing, thoughts throughout the project. Encourage diverse perspectives. So in the way we're asking questions and insights, see how those are. Just take another look at how we're doing that. And if we're not getting engagement, what we can change. Support the culture of unjustified variations. This means allow for some anything goes type of answers. Don't try not to like one example is the way I said, please, where are you from? And I enabled that to allow for more than one answer. So unjustified variation. So usually we only see one option. So being able to update things, being flexible to change things along the way. And then managing with diverse communication styles. So having one-to-one dialogue, just seeing what works, gauging that, what's working, tools, using different tools, but recognize that not everybody wants to have their camera on. So my own is thought is that not everybody likes to have their camera on. And if they're uncomfortable, then I personally don't do that, ask them to put it on, but I would like to one-to-one do that maybe sometimes, but maybe in a group, there's something else going on in the background in our home environment. So just even reflecting on things that we have options and control over. And then building trust. So this is something we have to earn. So just understanding that just, as project managers too, we have a lot we can do in this space too. I know I'm putting a lot of pressure on project managers too, but we can support each other in this. And also we can, like I said, the self-care and doing things for ourselves comes first too. But by doing this, we will get more in return, and we will actually, have better results, which is coming back to us. And then so encourage diverse perspectives. And Karen, do I have a time to pose? I think I had one that last as a question too. Oh, I think it didn't come through, so that's good. So I think I was hoping to ask, what do people, what other practices? But we can do Q&A now too. That's good.
Yeah, is there any, we have a nice number of individuals. You've gave us a lot to think about.
Sorry, I hope I didn't.
No apologies. And, for me, it was a little bit of a different perspective on how to look at, a similar topic, which was fabulous. Do we have any questions from individuals out there?
Oh, yeah, and I think Crystal, I believe is from a class, right? If any questions are there too, and then also if anybody wanted to add on, I'm seeing some couple of comments too. People wanted to add. Thank you. Back to you, Karen.
Okay. If there are no questions for the moment, we can go to our magic wheel, Dan. And then we'll pause afterwards in case there are some additional questions. Wow, lots of names this time.
Karen,
Yes,
tell
sir.
us what our lucky prize winners will win.
Okay, well, you saw our books. So Dan, am I still clear with the books? We're still got the 3 books?
Sure.
Okay, so not only do we have 3 books, but probably because I was staring out at the cold snow, I asked Dan if we could do some Starbucks gift cards. So we also have 3 $25 Starbucks gift cards as well. So if you are one of the lucky names on the wheel, you will get, and why don't we alternate? So we'll alternate between, we'll do the book first, then we'll do a gift card, then the book, then a gift card. So our first one will be ADCAR, model for change.
Our first winner, Shirley Boussac.
All right, hold on, let me write that down. So Shirley, you are the winner of the book, A Model for Change in Business, Government, and Our Community. And this was a book that was given to Dr. Nagubadi during her ADCAR certification. So our next wheel spin is going to be for a $25 Starbucks gift card.
Yeah, baby.
I didn't see Laura on. Laura, did you make it in the last minute or 2?
Yeah, baby.
Oh, how exciting!
Yeah, baby.
Oliver.
Olivier, I think Olivier. Great. Cool.
Okay. Karen,
Yes, sir.
what's next?
So the next one is, so that was the gift card. Hold on, I'm making a note here. The next one is our second book, and the second book is How to Be an Anti-Racist. This is on the New York Best Time Seller list. So let's see who wins this.
Yeah, baby.
Mark McCoy.
Okay, great. And spin it again for a gift card.
Yeah, baby.
Melissa, I did not see on.
Yeah, baby.
Well, Brad wasn't on. Brad, are you on? I didn't think so.
Yeah, baby.
Jim Bogash.
Okay,
Yes, I'm here.
congratulations, James.
Thanks. You know, that's a good thing about these meetings, you know? You always go away happy.
Okay, and the final book that we're raffling, I'm Judging You, the Do Better Manual.
Yeah, baby.
I did not see Teresa on. Moving on.
Yeah, baby.
And see Brooke on. Fortunately, there were 20 people that I couldn't account for.
Yeah, baby.
Tom Harris.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. And we have one final gift card. Give it the final spin.
Yeah, baby.
Bark. Bark, you out there?
I did not see Bark on.
Okay.
Yeah, baby.
And our final winner, Phil Gherkin. Congrats, Phil.
Thank you. Meow.
All right, guys, thank you so much. We'll make sure we get those off to you. Are there any additional questions that someone thought of since we had that little bit of a break?
Sure. Hi, I'm Lon Sullivan. I'm a new guy, so hi everybody. I'm new in the area. Just moved from Philly. Really interesting presentation. Covered a lot of ground. I'm curious. As a project manager, I know my sponsors and management are always looking for more KPIs and metrics, and so in this space of diversity and inclusion, I guess maybe a couple questions. One is, are there any metrics that you think are useful to track? Is that productive? Does that have some, I don't know. Are there cases where that can be counterproductive? Are there things that you recommend, ways that you recommend of keeping track of your progress and how you're doing? I mean, as a manager, I just,
Yeah.
it's nice to have a dashboard, but at the same time, you hear the classic people chafing against targets and quotas and those sorts of things for diversity targets. So just curious to get your take on that whole area.
So that's a good question, and you probably could give feedback on that. I would be curious also what your thoughts are too. I actually think that what we're doing here is combining what HR does annually with the engagement, the extensive employee engagement surveys that they do. So we can do maybe, and since that we are not in HR, we are in the operational, in different business units or wherever our roles are. Mm-hmm. I would suggest that we might ask them if they have a mini version, or we create one ourselves too, our own questions. And did you feel like, if we are using, do you use surveys and your lessons learned? Or if you do retrospective, any type of questions? Because maybe actually, if I were to do a survey, I would probably come up with some questions like I came up with some of these type of questions, and more about what matters to me in the project in terms of a project manager. So what are you looking at in terms of, did you feel like you were able to have your input throughout the project? Are there areas that you can improve? And I would make it less qualitative, more quantitative, so that people don't feel like you could identify who's answering that, so that we can really get candid responses too. That's why I'm grateful for the opportunity to also present this to project managers, because I would love to come up with these together, because I feel that we have the impact. Once a company is doing the metrics and honoring what they should do in terms of compliance of diversity and inclusion, not to put all the pressure on us, but we could actually do something good in this area wherever we make an impact on the belonging and the equity, that part. We can do something in that space, and then we'll feel the shift too. So I don't have all of the answers in this part, but I wanted to bring this diversity part and combine it together so that we could come up with these ourselves. And I do feel we will be creating new ground here. Not to not answer that question, but because I haven't seen a tool, I have used tools like just even understand a person's psychology, maybe the intercultural development inventory, so to understand a person's psychology so that I can use that. But I haven't found a tool that measures these type of things for project managers. So I think we can make this. Yeah. I
know that's very interesting. So it sounds like it makes more sense to focus on feedback surveys from the people who were participating about how they felt their participation went, versus, I mean, some of the, old school diversity metrics are pretty ham-fisted, right? You're just counting heads. How many diverse people do we have, and is that good enough? So
that's exactly it. You got it, Lon. So I'm actually trying to decouple those and just say that it's not about just having those numbers. It's about, then once you have those numbers, that engagement is a critical part to retention and also productivity, which are things that we look for too. So we have the project team at the beginning. We would love to see that same project team throughout the project, nobody leaving out of stress or lack of engagement. And then also we'd love to see really great output, whatever that is that we're doing. And innovation is a key part of that engagement too. It's intertwined.
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very helpful. Thank you.
Good.
Just
question.
a quick note that was in the chat also for Elon. It says, look at your team and note if it's diverse, and if it's as diverse as it should be. If not, work to change it.
Okay.
Just and then there's some additional comments as well. If there are results that aren't catering to different audiences, work to change it. So similar flavor. And the other thing that I would offer up to you, if you're, thinking about doing it from a retrospective perspective, from a retrospective angle versus, a real-time type feedback, is depending on the length of your project, if it's got longer runway, you may need a few different ones, a few different surveys to make sure that you're pivoting as you need to throughout the life cycle of that project.
Yeah.
That makes sense too. Very good point. If you got a 2-year project, you need to check in.
Right. Yeah. Great question though.
And also I saw that answer. If you wanted to share that in words too, these are also good things. Like I said, we'll learn from each other. I will learn from here too. So is that, not to call anybody out, but I see a good answer in there if people want to share that. Yeah.
And if I could add, I don't know, I think one of the challenges is that we need to measure the right things, right? And so I think that there's an aversion to measuring things that we perceive fairly easily with our eyes and counting it as, potentially, diversity. So race, gender, those types of things that are relatively apparent. And I think as was mentioned, what we may need to really focus on are the outputs of having a diverse team. And that might be performance in some way, shape, or form, retention, as was mentioned, whether or not you can keep people around. We just need to measure the right things, and that will take some of the edge off of it. But the key is that measuring does not hurt. Oftentimes what gets measured gets done. We just need to measure the right thing so that we don't promote bad behavior. And in this example, bad behavior might be hiring a diverse candidate just to say you did so. The counting of the heads, as you said, Lonnie.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good point.
Thank you. That's Clifford.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Clifford. I really appreciate you bringing that up, because I wanted to say that is a key part. And if we see the statistics and the diverse teams by external factors, as we are all in American companies, maybe that are impacting and measuring those things. So then it is up to the leader also to engage too. So it's up to us as project leaders it's a responsibility. So even, for example, if I'm a professor of a class too, it's not okay for me to just say, okay, here's the assignment, now go and do it. I also need to find out, I need to be available. I need to find out what works for each student. I may not always do a good job with that, but I will have to do my work to try. And then even like among a community of practitioners, we can share what worked and then learn from each other too. But it is kind of like first step is us. And first step is whoever is our sponsor too, they have to do it. But if they don't do it, then we do it. And then we see what the results are. And then we try different things, as Clifford was suggesting too.
Can I add one more thing? Because I got a note in the chat and someone said, hey, that's a great example, but how do you measure it? And I cannot remember exactly where this reading came from. So I cannot quote the actual source, and I apologize for that. But if you consider the advertising world for a couple of decades ago, and I know some of us are more than a few decades old on this call, you'd go down the aisle and you would see spaghetti sauce, right? And the spaghetti sauce, you had your choices, and fundamentally it was Ragu or maybe Progresso. And I'm sure there was a store brand or something like that, but those are the two predominant ones. Well, diversity is not the difference between the Ragu and the Progresso, but the diversity came in all the different flavors or the different combinations. So, triple cheese and garden variety, chunky vegetable. And that is actually what made their sales go up for that vertical. So that I hope that example makes sense, that when the one company added more diversity to their line, they actually grew in sales. And that's a way to kind of measure diversity, as just as an example in food and in marketing.
Oh, excellent example.
Mm-hmm.
Like Netflix example I gave.
Yeah.
That's another.
Yeah, and I think you had I think it was Lay's. I mean, you think of how many potato chips Pringles sold when they had two flavors, original and barbecue. Now think of how many they sell. Now they have a zillion flavors, and they got people stacking them and making different flavors out of stuff. Diversity actually helps. So as you look in your organization and you're actually seeing outputs that you would not have had that is bringing value to your organization, because you have different views and different thoughts and different. Sorry, my dog's just coming out, but you get the point.
Yes, exactly. And if we can also increase our own psychological exposure to diversity too. So we can't change, who we are, right? Our biology. We can change our psychology. We can fine tune that by experiences. So even like right now in this month, Black History Month, and thank you, Karen, for that exercise too. That is a way to also have more exposure to other cultures. So other culture means anything different than yourself, whatever your perspective is. So, and then looking into what is and she asked us to look at who do you most admire that is of black culture, right? African American or Black culture. Who do you most admire and why? So even that research is also a journey into a different time and space, right? So that gives that journey, psychological journey. So that will give that different, you will see, also that's what the research shows, that experiences like what Karen and Dan offered is that these will give you then the psychological ability to recruit new ideas. So yourself are more creative after exercises like that. And you can also go travel, not during this time probably, but you can also go to different neighborhoods, try out different food, all those things too. So I saw some hands too. I think somebody was raising their hand, like not digital hand, but a human hand. So if somebody still has that question or thought.
Well, they can interrupt me if they need to, because I want to make sure that their question gets heard. But I want to thank you. I want to thank all the members who have, taken their time to be on yet another Zoom call of the day. We all know, how our world has sort of cycled right now. I love the nuggets that not only you gave, but because of this collaborative type discussion that, that I was able to pull out. And I certainly hope that others have been able to glean some great information from here. We do have, as Dan had pointed out, we not only have speakers lined up for next month, but we have multiple months after that. We do take a break in the summer, so we aren't, completely, slave drivers here. We take a break in the summer, but I continue to welcome people's participation and their thoughts. And because your thoughts are so important to the board, we're going to be sending you a survey. It is a simple survey, I promise. But it's really to help us understand what you thought of this presentation and how we can, move the needle to continue to improve throughout the year. So that will be forthcoming for you. Dan, anything that you'd like to end with?
No, I'm going to go ahead and I want to thank our guest speaker for tonight, Dr. Nitha. Karen, thank you for putting this together. I'll go ahead and I yield my time to my cohort. Mike, you have anything to close?
I would again like to thank everybody for yet another Zoom call, just like Karen said, and fabulous presentation. Thank you so much. I did take away more than my share of nuggets too. So this was time well spent. Thank you.
Okay. For those who are on the networking call all the way through where we are right now, this is a 2 PDU opportunity. Gotta love it, man. Have a very happy and very good week this week. And remember, today's Ash Wednesday. Amen. And we'll see y'all. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Have a good